Hey guys, and welcome back to another Melrose Mixes video. I'm Mel, and today we're going to be exploring another root cocktail recipe, and today it's the old-fashioned. Now, this time I'll be chatting a little bit about the history of the old-fashioned. I made a poll on my Instagram page after my first cocktail video, and the majority of you wanted to know the history, verbally this time. So if you just want to know about the cocktail itself and get into the cocktail video, in the description below you can just click the link. They'll go straight to us making the cocktail. If not, and you're here for the long ride, well, let's get into it. So what is it? What is an old-fashioned? Well, it's basically really simple. It's got three components to it. The first component is that it's spirit driven. It's a spirit forward drink. It can be whiskey. It's most commonly used with bourbon or rye, but you can still use it with rum or tequila or gin, and it's still going to make a fantastic spirit forward drink. The second part of it is it's balanced with a sweetener of some kind. It's commonly used with granulated demerara sugar, some simple syrups sometimes in some recipes, but then it can also be liqueur. It could be some muddled fruit. It's still got that sweet component to it. As long as it's well balanced within the drink, there's no reason that you can't use it. And then the third component is that it's seasoned. Now, what it's seasoned is most commonly bitters. A bittering agent of some kind that could be literally like aromatic bitters, like what I have on me today. Or it could be orange bitters, rhubarb bitters, amaro liqueur, as long as it's seasoned with some kind of bitterness, with the sugar and a spirit. So that's basically the basis of an old-fashioned. That is the template, the fundamental basic. So, where was it created? So, when did the bitters come in? Well, the bitters was apparently what made the old-fashioned a cocktail. So when people say, was it the first cocktail? Well, according to history, from what I've read and what I will be linking all this information in the description below, but basically it was first printed in the 1806, a potent concoction of spirit, bitters, water and sugar, and that was where the definition of the cocktail was created. So when I say the definition of cocktail, that's where people I believe get a bit mixed up, because a cocktail could have been made, well, the same thing could have been made in, let's say, Australia, it could be made in Japan, it could have been made in Italy, but in this book at this time they're like, this is what a cocktail is, and then that kind of just triggered on the I guess trend, and anything that was mixed into a glass that had more than that had bitters, sugar and spirit was then called a cocktail. So I mean, if you get what I'm saying here, it could have been called just something else somewhere else, and then suddenly they had to name it a cocktail instead. So, you know, again, these kinds of stories, you know, it's interesting. Is it true? I don't know. I really don't, but I'm just kind of relaying this information to you guys. It's interesting. I find it interesting. And many of these recipes use muddling orange peels and orange wedges and cherries in the Prohibition era, because the whiskey at the time wasn't the greatest, and so then they wanted to mask the spirit, right? Mask the taste of the spirit. And then that recipe then continued to be popular into the modern era, which was ridiculous, because spirits nowadays are exceptional. They can be made incredibly well. and don't need to be masked by any other flavors when you want that spirit forward drink. If you want to muddle fruits and cherries and stuff, you're more than welcome to, if that's like the flavor profile you like, of course, but it's not necessary when you want a spirit forward drink. In my opinion, at least, and many other bartenders out there in the world. So during this time as well, the cocktail, or the old fashioned, was made predominantly with rye whiskey and bourbon. However, in the definition, that original definition I mentioned before, it suggested that any spirit was acceptable, which basically debunks every assumption that the old fashioned needs to be made with whiskey. So it really doesn't. Since the old, and so yeah, I personally, I'm not the biggest whiskey drinker myself, but I am using whiskey that I do love today. But yeah, I totally love like a rum old fashioned or a gin old fashioned or a variation of that, because it's still using those same core principles and it's still going to make a fantastic drink. Today my core spirit is going to be Chivas Regal 12 Scotch blended whiskey. Now, if any of you are like, oh, but no, we came here for the root cocktail. Well, yeah, you can totally make your preferred old fashioned. If that's with bourbon, that is fantastic. But mine's not with bourbon, and I'm not going to make it with bourbon because I'm not the biggest bourbon drinker. And I'm not just going to make it for the sake of it. So if you want to do it, you can absolutely do that. Good for you. And we're going to use the same template together. And we're going to make a fantastic drink. You're going to love your drink. I'm going to love my drink. And we're going to have a good old time. I think we've discussed enough. So let's get into the cocktail, guys. All right.